Hi everyone and welcome back. Welcome to today's video, which is going to be a let's paint basically. So what I have in front of me is the Winnebago resin model from the company ANTENOCITIS Workshop. I will put a link to their workshop, to their web store in the description. Now, they do this Winnebago, which I've previously reviewed, as part of their survival or survivalist range, which, let's face it, is pretty much aimed at kind of like Mantic's Walking Dead. And it was because of this that I actually bought it. I have seen the Winnebago that you can purchase from Mantic, listed as Dale's RV. However, I don't like it, and whilst it may be comic accurate, which is what the figures are based on within that game scenario, if the model had been moulded in plastic rather than laser cut MDF, I might have been a little bit more keen on it, as it were, but as it stands, I have decided to go with this. Now, this is quite a hefty bit of resin, I must admit. I'm really surprised that they didn't try and make some sort of, in the moulding process, some sort of insert that they popped in to try and reduce the amount of resin that actually goes into this bit of kit. But yeah, it's a good hefty weight. Now, I will put in a picture of Dale's RV as produced by Mantic, as well as a picture of the RV from the Walking Dead TV series. But with that, let's talk about colouring. So the RV is mostly a pale cream colour with a brown skirting along the bottom and silver trim. The colours I'm going to use for this mostly are going to be Citadel Wreath Bone base, Abaddon black, Mornfang brown. I'm going to be using Mechanica standard grey on the tyres, and then I will wash them with non-oil. I'm going to be using Agrax Earthshade, White Scar where necessary, and Drakenhof Nightshade as part of the colour scheme for the windows. So with that, I suppose really I want to get on with the base. Oh, and I forgot, for the metallic parts I shall be using Lead Belcher and highlighting that up with Runefang steel. As you can see, I have basically sprayed my Winnebago white. The model itself comes in this grey colour. I initially sprayed it black, and then I have gone over it with a white, just basically to allow me to get a better coverage for the main base colour, which is Wreath Bone. So I've mixed this up, and I've gone fairly diluted at this time, so that I can get quite a few good thin coats layered on. I'm using an artist's brush from an art supply shop for this stage. This will allow me to give good coverage with the brush. Now, I'm keeping the bottom unpainted because I will do that with a with the Mournfang Brown as a base, and then from there I will look to highlight that up. So literally just going around putting on the first couple of layers with this quite thinned out paint, so it gives me a nice smooth finish. Whilst we're waiting for the first coat to dry of the Wreath Bone, let's put some silver paint into the wheel rims. So these should be fairly easy. We're just going to literally brush in some lead belcher. Around them to get the best coverage. Like so. I'm now going to use Mournfang Brown, which is a base paint, to do the lower portions of this. Now the line to go up to is there, and the doors on these storage bays are painted, but this one is the same cream colour as the rest of the body. So I will get on with that now. The other thing that needs to be coated with the brown is the Winnebago W and stripe. The good thing about this model is that the detail is actually quite pronounced. So the W, the Winnebago W here at the front of the vehicle is of a raised detail, which then allows you to paint it really easily. With a minimal spillover into the other areas. But even if you did make a slight mistake, you can still go back and tidy that up, like I'm going to have to, once you've done your couple of coats and finish the detail. Now the other thing that you have on here is right at the end here, it says Chieftain in embossed lettering, and the way to do that will be to almost just give it like a dry brush, an overbrush. So not have too much paint on your brush and then just run over the top so that the paint takes to the embossed lettering and should allow for the word to be highlighted without paint spilling into the gaps between the letters. Now that the brown trim is done, what I need to do is go around and basically metallicize all the trim. So all of these compartment doors are all metallic. The trim along the bottom here is metallic. I've got metallic window frames that need doing, and some other bits and pieces. So that's going to take some time. And it's going to include things like this door lock here, as well as the door frame. We've got the pull-out awning here, which I will also do metallic. And yeah, so let's get to it. I'm going to paint the tyres with Mechanica Standard Grey, essentially so that I can then try a slightly different technique, which is giving them a wash with Nuln oil afterwards, and hopefully that will stop them looking potentially chalky when it comes to the weathering effect. So there you go. I'm going to do some panel lining now, and I'm going to be using Nuln oil to begin with, but I'm also going to use some Agrax Earthshade. Certainly the Nuln oil will be used to fill in certain details like these grill vents here, and go around the brown, the darker brown, and I'll use it to wash things like the grills, etc. But then I shall use the Agrax Earthshade to do the rest. So I'm only going to shade the top part of these panels, simply because as a model you're not necessarily going to see the undersides. So literally just going along and panel lining like that, and of course the edges of the trim, and along the edges of the storage compartments. You obviously need to allow enough time for this to dry before moving on. So I've done the panel lining, and it's really making it look quite grimy now. The next thing that I have started is just adding in some chipping, for which I am using a piece of old packing foam and lead belcher. And all I do is put some paint on the sponge, wipe most of it off, and then dab until I get to a point where I'm happy with what it's leaving behind, and then just basically dab that on. And what I've done is I've dabbed it on the roof where I think they might climb up and perhaps spend some time on the roof as a lookout. I'm actually going to just dab along the edges and along the front here, so you can see little flakes of it coming off. Now I've still got a little bit I need to do on the front, but I'm not doing that just yet. And the other thing I'm going to do is just on the edges of the wing mirrors, so that they look like they've accumulated chips over the years. Okay. Two colours that I forgot to include in the original list that you're going to need is a yellow and a red. And the red is going to be for the brake lights, which are modelled on the back of the vehicle there and there. And then throughout the vehicle there are a number of indicator lights and yellow lights that are on the front and rear. So you've got indicator lights here on the back, and then you've got these little lights here on the front. You've then got again lights here and here, and then these two smaller of the headlamp cluster are the indicator lights on the front, and then obviously these side lights are repeated here, and there's also yellow light there and there on each side. So I will get on with that now. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to obviously silver the headlamps using Runefang steel, but I'm also going to put Runefang steel on the main facing for the headlamps and then use it as a highlighter on the metallic parts. Right, the bit I've really been dreading, and that is doing the windows. This is going to challenge me because I'm going to try something new. Originally I was just going to paint it white and then use a blue wash to highlight it up. But what I'm going to do is I've mixed up a blue paint, a pale blue paint. I've got about 5 parts white, 1 part blue, McCrag blue, and I will just add blue to that to darken it up. And what I'm going to do is, starting from the top, I will try and progressively darken the windows towards the bottom. I may paint them all completely blue, pale blue to begin with, and then try and blend, wet blend even, something I've never attempted before, the paint up to what I want. Right, let's see how badly this goes. So I'm going to add in some blue, some dark blue into the mix I've got already. And then right, here we go. Okay. I'm trying to make the demarcation line between the two blues as subtle as possible. So this is an experiment, so it may not go right. with some of the darkest blue right at the bottom. And I shall leave that to dry and see what we end up with. The windows turned out okay-ish, I suppose. I'm not overly enamoured with the results, but it was my first time doing that sort of thing. If later on I do get better at doing solid windows on vehicles, I may very well revisit this and do them again. For the time being though, I'm going to use some Zandri dust to just dry brush on some dirt around the wheelbase of the vehicle and the front. So I'm using my large flat artist brush that I used earlier on in the paint video, taking most of it off onto a piece of kitchen towel. Now I've used some kitchen towel just to protect the model against the harsh surface of my cutting board. And keep it from getting scratched. So I'm going to build up more dirt around the wheel wells and certainly around the back of the vehicle. Try and keep the lights as clear as possible, but if needs be I can come back and just revisit those. And just some on the front of the Winnebago. Like so. And that's basically all I'm going to do to dry brush. I'm not going to do a lot at all. I'm going to keep it fairly light. Just obviously a suggestion that there's mud there or dirt that's accumulated. And that's all. Two last things that I'm going to do now. I'm going to gloss the whole model in order to give it a protective coat, and then once that is dry I will give it a spray of anti-shine matte varnish from Army Painter. Okay, that's it, it's done. I think I've taken it about as far as I want to take it. It's suitably grimy for a apocalyptic survival game like Walking Dead All Out War. I'm not 100% happy with the way the windows turned out. It's the first time I tried that technique, and I think, as I said previously, if I get the opportunity I may try and redo them at a later stage. Anyway, I hope you like this video. Please like and subscribe if you want to see more. It all helps. As I've said before, all the items that you see here are purchased by myself. I don't have a Patreon or anything like that. I just like producing the videos and sharing the content with you. Hopefully I will see you on the next one. Alright, take care. Bye.